Back in 1970, that song won the Eurovision Song Contest, and the singer was the Irish wonderful singer called Donna. And Donna is my special guest today, and she's actually in the middle of recording a new album, which we'll talk about in a minute. But how on earth did a girl from Derry suddenly get picked to sing that song, and who wrote the song?
Well, the song was written by two amateur writers. They were compositors in a newspaper. So it was an all-round kind of a semi-professional entrant. And at that time, each country sent its song and singer or group of singers to take part and represent the country. I was still at school. I had auditioned to take part in the National Song Contest, the little competition where they would pick their entrant the previous year.
Northern Ireland or the whole of Ireland?
When I went to Eurovision, I represented all of Ireland,
Okay.
but I was still at school. So I was also an amateur singer. So it was two amateur songwriters, an amateur singer, and it won the Eurovision Song Contest.
Now, explain how big that is.
Well, it is the biggest song competition in the world. It's the biggest.
And it's carried live in all these different countries?
Yes, and now it's carried in Australia and parts of America. Well, Celine Dion's career internationally began with the Eurovision Song Contest. ABBA, their career internationally began with the Eurovision Song Contest.
Did you actually sing it live, or were you sort of lip-syncing it?
Oh no, it was live with the full orchestra.
How scary. And how on earth did you get through doing the song?
Well, at that time I had only sung in very restricted things like concerts, and I'd done a couple of local televisions, a couple of national televisions with the Irish television station. But I wasn't really known in Ireland. I'd never had a hit record. And what used to happen to me was in the middle of the song, I'd suddenly realise where I was and what I was doing. I'd get really nervous. My breathing and everything would go. So as I waited to go on, I was thinking about my family who were watching this in Northern Ireland and my friends. And I thought, I really can't let them down. I was telling myself off, do not mess this up. And I think that thought of who was watching and how much it meant to the people of my town in particular. And it really gave me the strength to get through it.
Was that a time when there was a lot of troubles going on in Londonderry or Derry?
Yes, what we call the troubles were raging on the streets. They'd really begun in earnest. And my town was one of the epicenters for street battles, and it was a terrible time. And it really misrepresented worldwide the nature of the people, the nature of the town. It was a town always famous for its music, still is. It's music and culture. We have a Nobel Prize winning poets, writers, and it was always a town where music united the community. So it was a chance for me walking out there to represent the true nature of my people.
So what happened to your career then? All of a sudden you got this amazing coverage, you got this lovely song. Did you suddenly become a superstar?
Overnight star. And it went to number one in most of the European countries and as far away as New Zealand, I think Australia, and other countries that I'm only learning about now. Yes, I remember we had 4 crews from different countries in Europe camping on the corridor outside the apartment we lived in. I couldn't even go out the door. It was an unbelievable, I think I was in shock for 6 months.
Is it true that Bono recorded that song?
He didn't record it. I was told it was one of the first songs he sang as a young boy. But then a lot of children loved it and they would sing it. No, but actually when they did their stadium concert in Dublin, he had, in the late 90s, he had the words up on a screen with the bouncy ball, and he got the entire stadium to sing it.
Oh, that's great. So then do you go on tour then, and you have to put a show together with lots of other songs?
Well, a lot of it in the first year was televisions, and yes, some live events, but sometimes you'd be in 3 countries in the one day. It was constant travel, and I was on the first international link-up, with the first live link-up between America and England. David Bowie got the Best Newcomer. They would just, Dionne Warwick was on. There was amazing artists, and they linked up between, I think it was New York and London. So I really got to do a lot of wonderful things, Royal Command performances, and then, of course, learning my trade after the event.
I understand you knew somebody who I've had on the programme several times now, Roma Downey. She
Yes.
was from the same town. She
Yeah.
was a lot younger than you, though, was she? Or
Yeah, Roma would, yes, I think there'd be she'd be approximately about 11 or 12 years younger than me. And her mother and my mother were very good friends. And so Roma was a little apple-cheeked little girl. And so her mother would bring her to the concerts, but she was always a very beautiful child.
Yes.
And I remember she came to my father's funeral in more recent years. But we're so delighted that she's doing so well.
So, you were a Christian. How did your faith play a role in those early days of your career?
I found that, well, of course, when you're 18, which I was, and I wanted to be a singer. I wanted not a singer. I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh.
I wanted to teach music, and piano was my main instrument, not the voice. And I'd applied for college, depending on the results of my A levels. You know, the final year of high school. And then when I won Eurovision, I didn't look any different to any of my friends, but I looked about 14, and so people in the business, they almost like patted me on the head like I was 6, and it was a terrible conflict when at 18 you really feel you know your life, what you're going to do, you're an adult. And I found it was the Christians I met who treated me as a normal human being, not as a child, not as a commodity, but with genuine kindness and understanding. And I became a member of the Christian Arts Centre group.
Oh, yes, I'm a member of that.
Yeah, yes. And it's a network throughout the world.
Yes.
So I began going to meetings. I was already a believer. I sang at the, do you remember the Festival of Lights?
Yes, I was there. Yes.
And we walked up Oxford Street. There was
Yeah.
over 20,000 people. It was in reaction, as you know, to a blasphemous article in a magazine.
Yes.
And I sang at the Festival of Light. And I met a wonderful lady from America called Jean Darnell.
Yes, she just passed away.
I heard that, and
Yeah.
she prayed with me and with my mother. And you know, I'm born and raised Catholic. I still am Catholic, but I have the dearest of friends from other denominations who've been such a strength to me through my life and remain so. I'm still part of Christians in Entertainment, which is a kind of an offshoot of the Christian Arts Centre group. So I think definitely they gave me great strength, always knowing that I had a Christian community who had my back in show business.
You then get involved in politics, which is, I mean, it's so different from showbiz where everybody loves you and they're all cheering for you. Politics, you're going to make a lot of enemies, but was it running as a member of the European Parliament?
No, I started actually, I ran for the presidency of Ireland. Well, I thought, you, as my husband said, you might as well start at the top and work your way down. But I I would have to say it was not an easy decision to seek nomination.
Was that because you were from the north, or was that?
No, I sang for Ireland. I was from the north.
Yeah.
I sang for Ireland, the whole of Ireland, because being from the north, representing the Republic of Ireland in the Eurovision Song Contest. So I, of course, had an Irish passport and Irish citizenship. I think what I realised was the Constitution of Ireland at that time. It's a Christian constitution which begins, the preamble begins, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and goes on to say that all power comes from God through the people they vote for, and back to God. And there were many Christian, well, it's based on natural law, which recognises that there are laws that are above man-made laws, that are God-given laws. So I had a platform to speak. I had no political experience, nor did I want any. But there were so many people who had very deep concerns, but they couldn't have their voice heard. The man in the street, the woman in the street. I simply used the platform I had to speak on their behalf, on many different subjects that Christians care about. A roof over your head, a job, that parents are the first teachers of their children, and what's being taught to their children. So I never dreamt I would get nominated to run, because an independent had never been nominated in the history of Ireland. And I became the first independent nominated. I came third place. I had double the votes of the Labour Party, which was the third biggest party in the country. So I thought, great, now I can go back to normal life. But it had really brought together a very strong and very big numbered. I got 14% of the national vote. And they wanted a continuing voice. So they asked me, would I run in the European elections? So again, I thought, well, I'll run, but I'll never win, but I'll speak. I'll use the platform and speak. And I actually beat out a junior minister in the government. And suddenly I was a member of the European Parliament.
For how long?
5 years.
Wow. So what does that entail? Is it in Strasbourg, is it?
Both Brussels and Strasbourg. We meet and discuss and debate in Brussels. We vote in Strasbourg. So it was a battle every day, really. But I made wonderful friends. We had a wonderful network of believing people in the Parliament of all different denominations and nationalities.
Tell us a bit about your journey that led you into broadcasting and a bit about your family background.
Yes, so I was very fortunate to be raised in a Ghanaian immigrant household, a household that was very much about gender equality. You know, what was interesting is Ghanaian culture is a matriarchal society, so women are really empowered. And so boys and girls are treated with equal value in the home. And so I think that really helped shape me as a child, that it was okay to have an opinion as a woman. And so that's what led to my media career. I started in the industry when I was 16 on radio. I did work experience at Kiss FM, and then that sort of led to MTV and then on to Channel 4 and so on and so on.
What would be some of your standout moments? You were asked earlier some of the people that you got to interview over the years. Who were some of your highlights?
Some of my highlights, definitely loved interviewing Will Smith. I loved interviewing George Clooney. Who wouldn't like interviewing George Clooney? I loved getting to present Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday party. Yeah, I've met some cool people over the years.
Who would you say have been some of your greatest black role models or mentors that have inspired you?
I would say some of my greatest black role models and mentors. I've been very lucky. So in terms of role models, Oprah Winfrey for sure. Just seeing her and seeing all that she has been able to achieve always inspires me. I've literally been her biggest fan since I was a teenager. And then in terms of black mentors, I've been lucky. Baroness Amos is a very big mentor of mine. Lord Wahid Ali. I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of black trailblazers in this country.
Have you encountered any prejudice, racism yourself?
Oh, yeah.
What examples, what have been the biggest challenges for a black woman in media?
Yes, I've encountered a lot of racism over the years. It's subtle racism. So being bumped off magazine covers, not considered mainstream enough for sort of big, shiny floor Saturday night type shows. Yeah, lots. But I don't let that bother me because, you know, I think sadly there are people in our industry who still have very limiting views or limiting outlook, or who don't believe that an audience can connect with somebody that looks different to them. And the terrible thing is a lot of them don't even realize that they think that way. And so I think it's a continuous ongoing battle, but it's something that we have to keep chugging away at and have to somehow try to change.
How do you try to be a role model for particularly up-and-coming black women in media?
I don't think I actually say to myself, oh, I'm a role model, but I do hope that the little bit of confidence, extra confidence I gain as I get older, hopefully that inspires somebody else. So I look at it more in those terms, in terms of actually trying to be that much more confident every day, just a little bit more, and that allows me to sort of take more risks.
Of all the highlights over your career, how does getting an MBE,
Yes.
MBE, right?
Yes.
What was that like?
Getting an MBE was great, but it was really more for my parents. I think they were more excited than I was. So yeah, it was good.
And tell us about your Christian journey in the midst of all this.
Yes, so I'm definitely a person of faith. I love God, pray a lot, you know. I'm somebody that was raised in a Christian household. And then I sort of came to it myself. As a teenager, I was hit by a car. I didn't walk for a very long time, which meant I was in a lot of pain. And just mentally, the way that I got through it was with my faith, for sure.
Tell us about your book that you've been signing to, called Diversity?
Diversify.
Diversify, sorry.
Yes, so my book Diversify looks at the social, moral and economic benefits of diversity and why diversity is good for society. There's a wonderful quote by Reverend William Sloane Coffin, who was a civil rights activist in the 60s and a wonderful theologian. And he has a quote that says, diversity may be the hardest thing for society to live with and perhaps the most dangerous thing for society to be without. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about this issue. Of course, it is not easy. It is not easy trying to somehow integrate people that come from different backgrounds, have different belief systems, have completely different outlooks on life. But actually, when you do get it right, my goodness, that's where the magic happens. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Last question, tell us about some of the causes that you're an advocate for, including this lunch project in Soweto.
Yes, well, I don't do Lunchbox Fund anymore, but I have a new one called AfriKids. I'm so passionate about AfriKids. It is an education charity that works with kids in northern Ghana. And the north of Ghana is perhaps one of its poorest regions. And it's a part of the country that has been overlooked for decades. And what they do is they go into the communities there, they teach the children, but they also work with their parents in creating work and employment. And it's just a wonderful 360 approach to alleviating poverty. And so I'm so passionate about them.